My name's Emma. I'm 29 years old, and I never imagined I'd cry at his wedding. Not because he was marrying someone else, but because of what he whispered in my ear right before he said, "I do." They told me not to go. My sister, my best friend, even my therapist. "Don't do this to yourself, Emma," they said. "It's too much." But I had to see him. One last time. To know if everything we had was really gone. If the way he once looked at me had completely disappeared. Or if maybe, just maybe, there was still something there. His name is Daniel. And he wasn't just my ex. He was my person. The man I used to imagine growing old with. We met at a bookstore. I had dropped a copy of The Great Gatsby, and he bent down at the same time to pick it up. We laughed. He offered to buy me coffee. And somehow that turned into 5 years of Sunday pancakes, road trips with off-key singing, long talks under the covers, and dreams, big dreams, about buying a place near the ocean, adopting a dog, having 2 kids and giving them names that felt like sunshine. But all of that faded last year. At first it was subtle. He started working late, coming home tired, forgetting to ask about my day. Then he stopped laughing at my jokes, stopped holding my hand when we crossed the street, stopped saying "I love you" without me saying it first. One night I was making pasta in the kitchen, still in my work clothes, music playing low. He came in and stood there, quiet. I asked if everything was okay. He said, "Emma, I think we need some space." No fight, no yelling. Just a few soft words that shattered the world I thought we shared. At first I didn't believe it. I thought he was tired, or stressed, or scared of how serious things had become. So I gave him space. I waited. A week, then a month, then another. I left the porch light on every night, like he might walk back in through the door. But he didn't. And then one morning, I opened my phone, and there it was, a photo. Daniel, in a park I recognized, with a woman I didn't. They were laughing, and in her hand was a ring. My heart actually skipped, not in the romantic way, in the "I think I'm going to throw up" way. Her name was Claire. I don't know how they met. I don't know how fast it all happened. I only know that it felt like being erased. Like I had been a chapter in his book, and she had become the title on the cover. Then, weeks later, an envelope arrived. No note, just an invitation. "Daniel and Claire request the honor of your presence." I stared at it for days. Why did he invite me? Was it cruelty? Guilt? Closure? I didn't know. But I went. I told myself it was because I was strong, because I had healed. But deep down, I think I just wanted to see if he still looked at me the way he used to. I wore a soft blue dress, his favorite color. Curled my hair the way he once said made me look like sunlight. As I stood at the edge of the garden where the ceremony would be held, I suddenly felt 12 years old again. Small, nervous, hopeful for something impossible. The setting was perfect. White roses everywhere, soft piano music playing, guests chatting and sipping champagne. I found a seat in the back, behind a woman wearing too much perfume. The smell made my stomach turn. Then the music changed. People turned their heads. And there he was, Daniel, in a light gray suit, looking older, a little thinner, but still him, the man I loved, still walking like he carried the world quietly on his shoulders. He didn't notice me at first, or maybe he did and pretended not to, but as he walked down the aisle, something happened. His eyes scanned the crowd and landed on me. Just for a second. A long, quiet second. Our eyes locked. And I swear, I saw him flinch. Claire was holding his arm. She leaned in and said something. He smiled at her gently, but then looked back at me. And I looked away, because suddenly I couldn't breathe. Every laugh we shared, every lazy morning, every "I love you" came crashing back. And I realized I had never truly let go. Then the music paused. The officiant began to speak. And something strange happened. Daniel stepped back. Claire looked confused. He whispered something to her. Then he turned and walked toward me. People shifted in their seats. Heads turned. I felt my entire body go cold. He walked slowly, like the air itself was heavy. And then he stopped in front of me, bent down, just enough that only I could hear. And he said, "Why did you let me go?" I stared at him, stunned. 1,000 answers running through my head, but none reaching my lips. I wanted to say, "You left me." I wanted to scream, "You didn't fight for us either." But all I could do was look into his eyes and let one tear fall. He stood up, looked at me for one more second, and then walked away, back toward the altar, back toward his bride. And I sat there, with a heart full of questions. What did he mean? Why ask me that? Now, what was I supposed to say? I sat there, completely still, as if moving even a little would break me apart. Why did you let me go? His whisper kept playing over and over in my mind, louder than the music, louder than the guests murmuring behind me. Why did I let him go? The truth is, I didn't. He left. He was the one who asked for space. He was the one who stopped calling. The one who disappeared into silence, then reappeared next to someone new, wearing a ring. But now he was the one asking me that question. It felt cruel. And yet, deep down, I knew it wasn't meant to hurt. It came from something raw, something lost. I stared at the rose petals scattered along the aisle. They looked like broken pieces of something once beautiful. Claire stood alone now at the altar, smiling nervously. The officiant was speaking again, filling the space with words no one was really hearing. And Daniel was standing back in his place, like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just opened a door inside me I'd been trying to keep shut for months. The ceremony continued. I tried not to look at him, but my eyes betrayed me. He looked calm on the outside. But I knew him too well. His jaw was tight. His fingers kept twitching slightly at his side, something he always did when he was trying to keep it together. Claire began her vows. Her voice was soft and steady. I knew from the moment I met you that you were kind, thoughtful, strong. I stopped listening after that. It wasn't fair to her, but I couldn't help it. All I could think about was what my vows would have sounded like if it were me up there. I loved you when you were broke and tired and full of doubt. I loved you when you made pancakes at midnight and cried during movie trailers. I still love you, even now. But those were just words inside my head. He was marrying someone else. When it was his turn, Daniel cleared his throat. He held Claire's hands and looked into her eyes. But I noticed he didn't smile. Not really. His voice was steady. I promise to support you, to be your partner and your friend, to choose you every day. But that crack was still there, not in his voice, in his soul. He was trying to convince himself, and suddenly, something inside me shifted. I had walked into that wedding hoping he might still love me. But now, sitting there, watching him speak vows to another woman with eyes that seemed to drift somewhere else, I felt something colder. Pity. Not for her. Not even for me. For him. Because Daniel was doing what people do when they're afraid of being alone. He was running toward the next chapter before closing the last one. The rings were exchanged. They kissed. People clapped. Some cried. I sat still, hands clenched in my lap. It was over. The moment I had feared the most had happened, and I was still breathing. That surprised me. I stood up to leave. I didn't want to stay for the party or the drinks or the fake smiles. I just wanted to go home, take off this dress, and forget this whole thing ever happened. But as I turned to walk away, a familiar voice called my name. Emma? I turned. It was his mother, still elegant and warm as ever. I didn't know you were coming, she said, her eyes kind. It's really good to see you. I smiled softly. Hi, Julia. She took both my hands gently. You look beautiful today, just like always. I didn't know what to say. My throat felt tight again. For a moment, I wondered if she knew, if she had seen the look on Daniel's face, if maybe she still hoped we'd find our way back to each other. She leaned in, lowered her voice. He was never the same after you. Then she pulled back, smiled, and walked away before I could answer. Those words landed hard. He was never the same after you. I didn't know what to do with that. So I kept walking. I found a quiet corner behind the garden, near the fountain where we used to sit and talk for hours. And then I saw him again. Daniel, standing by the water, alone, holding a glass he hadn't touched. He didn't move when I approached, just turned his head slightly. I thought you left. I was going to. A long pause. Then I asked, why did you say that? Back there? He didn't turn to look at me. I don't know, he said quietly. I saw you. And suddenly everything I thought I had made peace with just fell apart. You're married now. I know. So why bring this up? He finally looked at me. His eyes were red. Not from crying, from holding it all in. Because I kept waiting for you to come back. And when you didn't, I thought maybe you were okay. Maybe you were better without me. I wasn't. He swallowed hard. I thought I had to be strong. I thought I was doing the right thing, letting you go. Letting you find someone who wouldn't mess everything up like I did. I looked away, blinking fast. And now? I asked. He stared at the fountain, at the soft light dancing in the water. Now I don't know if I made the biggest mistake of my life, or if I'm just scared I lost the only person who ever really saw me. Those words hit me deep. I could feel my heart beating in my throat. This wasn't just doubt. This was regret. And regret hurts differently when it comes too late. I wanted to touch his hand, to tell him I still loved him. But something inside held me back. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was survival. Or maybe I knew that some people only realize your worth when it's no longer theirs to keep. And some stories, no matter how much you love them, aren't meant to be rewritten. He said, I don't know if I made the biggest mistake of my life, or if I'm just scared I lost the only person who ever really saw me. And there it was. The real reason behind his whisper at the altar. The reason he turned back. The reason he couldn't look me in the eyes when he said his vows. Not because he didn't love her, but because a part of him still loved me. And maybe always would. We stood there by the fountain like the rest of the world had paused. Birds chirped softly in the trees. The water kept flowing, quiet and steady, like it didn't care that a storm was happening in our hearts. I should have fought for us, he said. You should have, I answered. And he nodded, slowly, eyes shining. I thought I was protecting you. I thought maybe I wasn't enough. You were, I said. You just left. I know. He sat down on the stone edge of the fountain, hands clasped together. I don't know what I'm doing, Emma. I stayed standing, because sitting next to him would feel too much like staying. And I knew I couldn't stay. Not now. You made a choice, I said softly. Even if you weren't sure, even if part of you still doubts it, you said yes. You put on the ring. He looked up at me. But part of me still loves you. I closed my eyes. That's the thing no one tells you about heartbreak. Sometimes the person who breaks you still loves you. They just don't know how to love you right. And I was tired of being someone's maybe. Do you love her? I asked. He hesitated, and in that silence, I got my answer. Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he'd figure it out in 5 years. Or maybe he'd never feel for her what he once felt for me. But that wasn't my story anymore, and I couldn't carry his confusion. I hope you do, I said. I really do. He stood up. His eyes were glassy now. Emma. No, I said gently. Don't say anything else. Let's not turn this into something ugly. He stopped himself, then whispered, Thank you for coming. And I nodded, because even though it hurt like hell, even though part of me wanted to scream or collapse into his arms, I knew I had come for a reason, to face the ending. To finally close the door we both had left half open for too long. I turned and walked away. The music from the reception faded behind me. The laughter, the clinking of glasses, the beginnings of a marriage I had no part in anymore. I didn't look back. Not because I didn't care, but because I did. Too much. If I had looked at him one more time, I might not have left. And I needed to. I needed to choose myself. For the first time in years, I really did. Weeks passed, then months. I kept quiet about the wedding. Didn't tell my friends much. Didn't post anything. Didn't dig for updates about his marriage. I started painting again. I'd changed my route to work so I wouldn't pass by our old cafe. Some days I still thought about him, but less and less like a wound, and more like a story I once lived, one that shaped me, but didn't define me. And then, one afternoon in late fall, I found a letter in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name. In handwriting I hadn't seen in almost a year. My hands shook as I opened it. The paper was plain, but the words weren't. Emma, you didn't let me go. I let myself drift away. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was being brave. But seeing you that day, the way you looked at me and still smiled, even with a broken heart, that was the kind of love I'll never deserve, but I'll remember it forever. No signature, no goodbye, just a quiet confession that came too late. And yet, I didn't cry, not this time. I folded the letter, placed it in my drawer, and sat by the window. The sky was turning gold. I held a cup of tea in my hands and watched the light change, the way the trees swayed gently in the wind. I breathed deeply, because for the first time in a long time, there was no ache in my chest. Just space. Space for something new. For hope. For healing. For me. And if you're listening to this right now, maybe you've loved someone like Daniel, someone who didn't mean to hurt you, but did. Someone who looked at you like you were their future, until one day they didn't. Maybe you still think about them, still wonder, what if? But here's what I've learned. Love isn't about who says the right thing in the end. It's about who shows up for you when it matters most. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is let go. So if you're holding on to someone who already walked away, maybe it's time you let yourself walk away too. Not to forget them, but to remember who you are. You are not a backup plan. You are not a second chance. You are the main character in your story. And like I finally did, maybe it's time you choose you. Thank you for watching. If this story helped you feel something or learn something, give it a like and subscribe for more stories just like this one.